Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're digging into something I think many of us feel very deeply. It's that knot in your stomach when you set big goals, the anxiety of ambition.
Yeah, it's this constant cycle, isn't it? We set these huge targets, the big promotion, that fitness challenge, finding the right relationship, and we just assume automatically that getting the prize is what brings happiness.
But that's the trap, right? Because if you tie your happiness, your whole sense of well-being to getting that prize, you're basically signing up for anxiety
Wow.
and frustration and probably disappointment.
Absolutely guaranteed, because those outcomes, the job, the win, the perfect relationship, they're just so vulnerable. They depend on the market, what other people decide, pure luck, sometimes even like the weather, things totally outside your control.
It's this weird paradox of striving. The bigger the dream, the more you're sort of psychologically exposed.
So our mission today is to explore this really quite radical solution from the Roman Stoics, people like Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. They figured out a way to chase incredibly ambitious goals without that crippling fear of failure. And the secret sauce, it's shifting your focus completely, ruthlessly focusing on the process, your effort, your character, and letting go of the prize.
So we're diving into their writings and some modern takes on their practices to kind of get a shortcut, a guide to internalizing that ambition and living a more focused, less impeded life.
There's definitely some dense philosophy here, but it's incredibly practical.
Okay, let's jump right in. Where do we start? What's the absolute foundation for this way of thinking?
It all starts with something Epictetus really hammered home, what he called the crucial dichotomy. Basically, mapping out what's genuinely in your control versus what isn't. Now, I know a lot of people listening might have heard versions of this focus on what you can control, but the Stoic version is way stricter, isn't it? More rigorous.
Oh, absolutely. And that rigor is precisely what gives it teeth. For the Stoics, the only things truly, completely in our power are our judgments, our desires, and our core faculty of choice, our volition, what they called proheresis. Proheresis. So that's like our moral compass, our ability to decide what's right and wrong in our own minds.
Exactly. It's that inner command center, the part of you that decides how to interpret things, what to value, whether to assent to an impulse or reject it. That capacity, they argued, is totally autonomous. Nothing external can truly touch it or take it away.
So it's not just choosing tea over coffee, it's deeper. It's the engine of our ethical self. Why only that, though? Why did they draw the line so firmly there?
Well, think about everything else. Your physical strength, your amazing memory, even your ability to walk across the room, all incredibly useful, sure.
Yeah.
But none are guaranteed. An accident, illness, just getting older, any of those can diminish or remove those capacities. They're vulnerable.
Right.
But the faculty you use to decide how to respond to losing your strength or facing illness, your proheresis that remains yours, it's like this unbreachable inner fortress until the very end.
Okay, I see that. And the flip side of this, which is where I think the anxiety really lives for most of us, is that everything else, everything external, is ultimately outside our complete control.
Everything. Your reputation, how much money you have, whether people like you, your career success.
But Epictetus went even further, didn't he? He said, even our own bodies, our physical movements, aren't fully in our control. How does that work? That sounds extreme.
It does sound extreme at first, but think about it. Your body is physical matter. It's subject to the laws of physics, biology, chance. You can choose to exercise, eat well, go to the doctor. Those are acts of your proheresis, your volition.
Okay.
But can you choose absolutely not to get sick, not to age, not to be in the wrong place when a car swerves? No. The final outcome, your actual state of health, is always a mix of your efforts and, well, fate or luck or the universe. And since that outcome isn't solely down to you, it can be the basis for your fundamental happiness or peace of mind.
That's the hard pill to swallow, isn't it? If your happiness hinges on getting the promotion or winning the race or getting famous, it's built on sand. It's totally vulnerable to things you just can't influence completely.
Exactly. Which is why the Stoic goal is described as living unimpeded and undistressed. And the only way to achieve that state, they argue, is to be ruthless about where you place your desires and aversions, your value system.
You limit them strictly to that inner domain, to volition.
Precisely. If the only thing you truly desire is to have a good, rational character, and the only thing you truly fear is having a bad, irrational character, then what can external events really do to your core goal? Nothing.
But wait, if we're not aiming for the usual stuff, wealth, status, physical perfection, what is the goal then? It can't just be sitting around thinking pure thoughts, surely.
No, absolutely not. The goal is the active cultivation of virtue, excellence of character, what the Greeks called arete.
Arete.
The Stoics basically took Socrates' idea that only virtue is genuinely good and vice is genuinely bad. Everything else, everything external, that classified as an indifferent. Okay, indifferent. This sounds cool, but they broke virtue down, right? Made it more practical.
Right.
The cardinal virtues.
They did. Wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation, or temperance. And these aren't just abstract ideals collecting dust on a shelf. They're meant to be lived.
How do they connect to ambition then?
Think of them as wisdom applied in different situations. Wisdom itself is about judging correctly, knowing what's truly good, virtue, and bad, vice. Justice is wisdom in how you deal with others. Courage is wisdom when facing difficulty or fear. Moderation is wisdom controlling your impulses and desires.
So if I'm trying to build a business, the goal isn't just make lots of money.
Right. The Stoic goal is to exercise wisdom in your strategy, justice in dealing with employees and customers, courage when facing setbacks, and moderation in your ambitions and spending while you pursue success. Ah, I see. The excellence of your character during the attempt is the real good, not whether you end up on the cover of Forbes.
Exactly. The virtue itself is the achievement.
Okay, this is where I always, push back a little. Because telling someone their health or their family's safety or keeping their job, telling them those things are indifferent it feels disconnected from real life, almost inhuman. How did they square that?
That's a really important point, and it's fair. It's probably why the later Stoics, especially the Romans, who were deeply involved in practical life, added a crucial layer of nuance. They absolutely stood by the idea that externals are indifferent in terms of your moral worth having money doesn't make you a better person.
Right.
But they acknowledge that these things are not neutral in practical value. They make a difference in living a functional life.
So this is where the preferable indifferents come in. Progmena.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Things like health, reasonable wealth, having friends, a decent society, these are naturally preferable. It's rational to pursue them. They actually make it easier to practice virtue sometimes.
Okay, that makes more sense. They hold a sort of middle ground. Not essential for happiness, but definitely nice to have. Useful.
Useful, exactly. You can pursue them. You can strive for them. Vigorously, even.
So let's go back to the CEO example. Aiming for that billion-dollar exit, that's okay. It's a preferable indifferent.
Yes. You can apply all your skill, your wisdom, your courage to achieve it. Go for it. But, and this is the absolute key, the thing that dissolves the anxiety, your core happiness, your sense of yourself as a good person, must not depend on actually getting that exit.
Because the market could crash, a competitor could emerge, things you can't control.
Exactly. You pursue health because it's preferable, it helps you function. But if you get sick, your inner self, your moral core, remains intact, potentially even strengthened by how you virtuously handle the illness. Your integrity in running the business is the real measure, not the final valuation number.
Okay, so it's not about becoming desireless. It's about shifting the locus of your ultimate concern. You pursue the outcome, but you're internally anchored to your effort and character, which fortune can't touch.
Yes. We pursue these preferable things with what the Stoics called a reservation clause, like saying, I will sail to Ostia tomorrow, if nothing prevents me. Fate permitting.
Feet per minute.
If a storm comes up, well, your plan changes. But you haven't failed in your core goal, which was to make a prudent and virtuous decision to sail, conditions allowing. Your proheresis is unharmed.
Right, this whole shift from the external result to the internal quality of the effort that feels like the secret weapon against ambition anxiety. The goal isn't hitting the target anymore. It's the perfection of the shot itself.
And there's a fantastic analogy for this, usually credited to Antipater the Stoic, the archery analogy.
Right, yes, the archer. Tell us about that.
Okay, so imagine an expert archer stepping up to the line. What do they control? They control their stance, their breathing, how carefully they select the arrow, the tension in the bow, the smoothness of the release. They pour all their skill and focus into acting as best they possibly can. That part is entirely up to them.
Right, they maximize their input, their effort.
But the moment that arrow leaves the bow, control is gone.
Right.
A sudden gust of wind could blow it off course. Maybe there's an unseen flaw in the arrow shaft. A bird flies past. Anything could happen. The final outcome hitting the bullseye is not completely in their control.
Okay.
So if that archer ties their happiness, their sense of success, only to whether the arrow hits the dead center, well, they're setting themselves up for constant potential disappointment, even if they executed the shot perfectly.
Huh.
But if the archer internalizes the goal, if they define success as doing everything in their power to shoot well, focusing on their form, their concentration, their skill, then success is achieved the instant the arrow is properly released, regardless of where it lands.
Ah, okay. The success is in the process, the application of skill.
Exactly. Nothing external can prevent them from achieving that internal goal of performing excellently.
Let's map that onto something modern, maybe. Writing a novel. A big, ambitious one.
Perfect example.
I can control the hours I put in, the research, the careful crafting of sentences, the revisions, my effort.
Right. That's your archery practice.
But I absolutely cannot control whether critics will love it, whether it becomes a bestseller, if it wins any awards, or even if people understand what I was trying to do. Those are all external, completely out of my hands.
Totally external. So the Stoic goal isn't write a bestseller. The Stoic goal is the perfect execution of the internal tasks involved.
Meaning?
Meaning, exercising the courage to face the blank page every day, using moderation to resist distractions, applying wisdom to structure the plot and characters, employing justice, perhaps, in portraying human nature fairly.
So you succeed, in the Stoic sense, the moment you use your virtues to write the best possible chapter you can today, under your current circumstances.
Yes, even if that novel never gets published, your internal success, the virtuous effort, is already complete.
I really like that, because it means the highest form of success acting virtuously is always within reach. No matter what life throws at you externally, you can always choose to respond with excellent character.
You always control the quality of your attempt. And this idea, this commitment to playing your part well, regardless of the larger drama, is beautifully captured in another metaphor, this one from Epictetus, the actor in the play.
Right, the actor metaphor. It's easy to forget we're just players sometimes, isn't it? We think we're writing the script.
Exactly. Epictetus says, think of your life like you're an actor who's been cast in a play.
Yeah?
You didn't choose your role. Maybe you're the star. Maybe you have one line. Maybe you're playing a king. Maybe a beggar. Rich, poor, healthy, sick. That's the role you were assigned.
And you didn't choose the plot either, or how long the play lasts.
Not at all. You didn't write the script. So all the things we tend to agonize over, why is my part so small? Why does that actor get the better costume? Why does the play have such a tragic ending? Those are all complaints about the script we didn't write.
Things outside our control.
Precisely. Your job, says Epictetus, isn't to rewrite the play or complain about your role. Your job is to play the role you've been given as excellently as you possibly can, with skill, with commitment, with virtue.
So, Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, his job wasn't necessarily to stop the plague or prevent wars. Those might be part of the uncontrollable plot. His job was to act with wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation as emperor while facing those things.
Exactly. Excellent performance within the given role. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Not changing the fundamental script of reality.
And this seems especially relevant when we think about social ambition, trying to change other people or fix society. That feels like the ultimate external, uncontrollable goal. How does this framework apply there?
Yeah, that leads us straight into how the Stoics thought about our connection to others. It involves expanding that internal goal into the social realm, to a concept called oikesis. It basically means appropriation or making something your own.
Okay, oikesis, how does that work?
It starts with our most basic instinct, self-preservation, looking after ourselves.
Makes sense.
But then reason steps in, and reason tells us we're social creatures. So that initial self-concern naturally expands outwards, like ripples in a pond. First, to our immediate family and friends, then to our neighbors, our local community, then our fellow citizens, our country. And ultimately, the Stoic ideal is to expand that sense of belonging and care to encompass all of humanity, to become literally cosmopolitans, citizens of the world or citizens of the cosmos.
Wow, okay. That sounds incredibly ambitious, socially speaking. Does that mean the goal is to fix society then, to achieve political change? Because that sounds external again.
But that's the crucial Stoic twist that keeps it internal and preserves your peace of mind. If the goal was actually changing society or fixing other people, you'd be constantly frustrated.
Right.
Because you can't control them.
Right. Utterly uncontrollable.
So the goal isn't changing others. The goal is changing your own disposition towards others, your internal attitude and actions.
You internalize the social aim completely.
Completely. You focus on ensuring that you act with absolute integrity in all your social roles, with respect, fairness, cooperation, kindness, justice, regardless of how others behave or respond.
So the good volition, that prohairesis, when applied socially, has to include justice and fairness.
It must. To be truly good and rational, your volition has to value acting justly towards others, because we are inherently social beings. The goal is performing your duties as a parent, a friend, a citizen, a colleague, philosophically, scrupulously, virtuously.
Even if the other person is difficult, even if the project fails because of someone else.
Especially then. Your success isn't measured by whether you fixed the other person or achieved the external group goal. Your success lies in the perfect expression of your virtue and your actions towards them. That success is guaranteed internally, even if the relationship breaks down or the team fails externally.
Okay, this all sounds great intellectually, really powerful. But let's get practical. Ambition gets messy. Life hits you. You feel the sting of failure, the resentment when someone undermines you, the anxiety when things go wrong. Knowing you should focus on effort is one thing. How do you actually do it in the heat of the moment?
Ah, yes, the practice. This isn't just theory. It requires constant daily training. The Stoics had specific disciplines for this. We're focusing particularly on what they call the discipline of assent and the discipline of action.
Assent action. Okay.
It boils down to relentless self-awareness, paying constant attention to the impressions, the thoughts, images, judgments that pop into your head, and the impulses, the urges to act that follow.
So like an inner gatekeeper, you have to constantly examine what's trying to get through.
Exactly. You're constantly subjecting these mental events to scrutiny as they arise. Is this thought true? Is this impulse rational and virtuous? Is this based on something I control or something I don't?
You're basically drilling the dichotomy of control into your moment-to-moment experience.
Yes, and the texts are clear. This is simple conceptually, but it is not easy in practice. It takes continuous hard work, constant vigilance to catch yourself, to question your automatic reactions, and to progress towards becoming what they called an advanced proficient, someone who's genuinely skilled and reliable in their judgments and actions.
So the critical point is catching that first thought, that initial impression, before it just sweeps you away. Like the thought flashes, my boss hates my presentation, and you immediately just accept it as reality.
That's the danger zone. We often just passively accept these impressions. More than that, we often choose what they mean about us. We put I in front of it, as Epictetus might say. I am being criticized. I need that approval. And the distress, the anger, the fear, it comes not from the boss's neutral expression, but from our internal judgment about it.
So what's the technique, the actual thing you do in that split second when the negative thought hits?
Epictetus gives us a direct instruction. When an impression arrives, you say to it, wait for me a bit, impression. Let me take a look at you and what you're about. Let me test you.
Wait for me a bit. I like that. You're hitting the pause button.
You're creating a space, a moment to challenge it, to ask, is this impression representing reality accurately? Is it about something up to me or not up to me? Is it aligned with virtue? You confront the potentially harmful impression with a rational alternative and choose the better one.
And that pause, that's the moment of truth, isn't it? You either reclaim your agency, your proheresis, or you just surrender to the emotional tide.
Precisely. If you just immediately assent, yes, my boss does hate it. This is terrible. I need to defend myself. You've basically handed over control. You've succumbed to what the Stoics called a passion, an ailment of reason.
And this is crucial for managing those really corrosive emotions like anger and distress, right? The ones that totally derail rational goal pursuit.
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
The Stoics had a radical view here. It's never the external event itself that causes anger or distress. It's always our judgment about the event. Our thoughts are the culprits.
Seneca saw a lot of anger working with Nero. He had some strong words about it, calling it womanly and childish. That's pretty harsh.
It is harsh language to modern ears, but he was trying to shock people into realizing how irrational and destructive it is. He didn't just call it names. He described its physical effects in detail. The bulging veins, the racing heart, the loss of control, the desire to inflict harm. He saw it as a temporary madness, a disease taking over the body.
Because it bypasses reason entirely.
Completely. And his point was, you don't treat a disease by focusing on the symptoms after they appear. You treat the root cause. And the root cause of anger is the incorrect judgment, the thought that you have been seriously harmed or wronged in something that truly matters.
So if my goal is internal, maintaining my composure, acting justly, and someone insults me, which is external, the practice is to pause and challenge the thought. Does this insult actually harm my character, my virtue, the only thing that's truly mine?
Exactly. And if you conclude rationally, no, this only harms my reputation, which is an indifferent or it reflects poorly on their character, not mine, then the rational, virtuous response isn't anger. It might be indifference, maybe even pity, or simply a calm, just correction if needed. You replace the foul impression with a clear, rational one.
Okay, that makes sense for anger. What about distress? That feeling of being overwhelmed when a major external goal just collapses, a business fails, a project gets canceled, a financial hit.
Another Stoic, Chrysippus, gave a really useful analysis of distress. He said it typically arises from a combination of three specific beliefs or judgments.
Three beliefs, what are they?
Okay, first, the event was unexpected. It caught you completely off guard.
Okay.
Second, you evaluate the event as seriously negative, a true evil. And third, you believe you are powerless to prevent the harm, specifically the harm to your inner state, the distress itself.
Unexpected, seriously negative, and powerless. Wow, that's pretty sharp diagnosis of crisis mode.
It really is. And the beauty of it is, if you can challenge and dismantle any one of those three beliefs with reason, the distress should lessen or dissolve.
Okay, how do you challenge them?
Well, you challenge the unexpected part through what Seneca called premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. Regularly contemplating potential setbacks, losses, difficulties, so they don't shock you if they happen.
Toughening the mind in advance.
Exactly. You challenge the seriously negative evaluation by going back to the dichotomy of control. Is this external event, this financial loss, truly a moral evil? Does it corrupt my character? The answer for Stoic has to be no. It's a dispreferred indifferent, yes, but not a true evil.
And the feeling of powerlessness.
You challenge that most fundamentally. You remind yourself that while you couldn't prevent the external event, you always retain the power to choose a virtuous, rational response. You are never powerless in your volition, in your proheresis. You can choose not to let this event destroy your inner peace.
Cicero kind of suggested focusing there, right? Arguing not just that poverty isn't an evil, but that a wise person shouldn't be distressed by anything external, because distress itself comes from faulty judgment, which is within our control to fix.
Precisely. It's about removing the internal cause of distress, the faulty belief, rather than trying to change the unchangeable external event. The ultimate aim of all this practice is to become immune to distress, anxiety, irrational anger, by consistently training your mind to make correct value judgments. You trade the fragile pursuit of external prizes for the unshakable strength of internal mastery.
You know, when you look at the actual lives of these philosophers, especially the Romans, it really hits home how challenging this practice is, even for the masters. Seneca's maybe the prime example of that tension, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Seneca's life was complex.
Huh?
Tutor to the young, volatile Emperor Nero, became incredibly wealthy, maybe one of the richest men in the empire, deeply involved in politics, then exiled, then brought back, then ultimately forced by Nero to commit suicide.
Yeah. And people at the time, and historians since, have definitely accused him of hypocrisy. You know, preaching Stoic indifference to wealth while living in luxury, advising calm while navigating deadly political waters.
It's a fair point to raise. His life was messy, full of compromises, and, frankly, danger. It was the ultimate stress test for his philosophy.
But maybe that's why his writings on adversity are so powerful, because he wasn't just theorizing from an ivory tower, he was living in that tension.
I think that's right. He wrote profoundly about preparing for hardship, precisely because he faced so much of it. His advice to premeditate evils, to really think about losing your status, your wealth, your freedom, even your life wasn't abstract. It was practical advice aimed at lessening the psychological blow when disaster inevitably strikes.
He basically argued it's irrational not to expect trouble, right? To think, oh, that won't happen to me, when loss and misfortune are just part of the human condition, part of the script we didn't write.
Exactly. And by mentally rehearsing responses to potential adversity, you're exercising and strengthening that inner citadel, your proheresis. You're preparing your character.
He had that line, something like, everlasting misfortune has one blessing.
Yes, that it ends up by toughening those whom it constantly afflicts. It's a hard-won perspective. Adversity, if you approach it with this internal focus, becomes a kind of training ground for virtue, forging resilience in your character.
And you know, this ancient idea, this radical focus on internal control, on finding meaning in your response rather than the outcome, it really echoes in some surprising places in modern thought too, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You see a powerful parallel in Viktor Frankl's logotherapy. His ideas about finding meaning were forged in the absolute extremity of Nazi concentration camps.
Frankl's whole realization, surviving that horror, was that even when everything external is stripped away, freedom, dignity, health, loved ones, there's one freedom no one can take. The freedom to choose your attitude, your response to suffering.
Precisely. He argued that suffering itself isn't the ultimate problem. Meaninglessness is. And meaning isn't found by avoiding suffering or achieving external success, but by the choices we make within our circumstances, how we bear our cross.
He also talked about how past experiences, the meaning derived from them, couldn't be taken away. They become part of you, safe forever in a way.
Yes, that resonates so strongly with the Stoic idea that the virtuous action, the excellent effort, is the real achievement, and it's yours regardless of the outcome. Frankl found that meaning is discovered through living, through the quality of our response to life's challenges. It's not some abstract answer you find in a book.
It's how you answer the questions life puts to you through your actions.
Exactly, which perfectly mirrors the Stoic focus. The only thing ultimately ours is our judgment, our volition, our response, and the quality of that response is the measure of our life.
So the highest ambition isn't conquering the world outside, but mastering the world within, perfecting that rational, virtuous response to whatever happens.
And that brings us right back to the core takeaway from our deep dive today. The Stoic approach to setting and pursuing goals is really about radically internalizing your ambition.
You're not actually chasing the promotion, the prize money, the applause. Those are just side effects, maybe. Preferred possibilities.
Preferred indifference, exactly. The real goal, the thing you define yourself by, is the perfect execution of your internal effort, using wisdom, justice, courage, moderation in the attempt itself.
You're pursuing a state of being calm, rational, unimpeded, virtuous, not a specific external achievement. And the amazing thing is, that kind of success, the success of character, is always available.
Always. The philosopher's job, Epictetus would say, is just constant practice. Test every impression. Is this up to me? Ensure your actions flow from that clear, tested, rational volition, free from anxiety about things you don't control.
So here's the challenge for everyone listening. For you, if you really embrace this, if your happiness is truly tied only to your character and your effort, not the external result, what huge, ambitious, maybe scary, uncontrollable project would you take on next?
Knowing that your greatest success isn't whether it works out in the end, but simply lies in the integrity, the courage, the sheer nobility of your attempt.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
And maybe one final thought to leave you with, something powerful from Marcus Aurelius. He wrote that the highest aim of a rational being is to follow the reason and law of their most ancient and venerable city or country.
And he wasn't talking about the city of Rome, was he?
No, he meant the cosmos, the universal city governed by reason, by nature. So the question he leaves us with is, what does it mean for you right now in the short time you have to truly follow the law of universal nature within you, to live according to reason and virtue?
And to stop feeling like a stranger in your own inner country.
Exactly. The answer isn't out there in what you achieve. It's in who you choose to become, moment by moment, as you strive.